Hey up guys, if you are looking for some interesting sounds to add to your chord vocabulary, then you might dig these little shell chords I'm about to show you. Now, what's unusual about these is they run all the way up the neck and they will help you to really nail understanding the tonality of chords. But a cool byproduct of this is if you add these little shell chords to your pentatonic boxes, then you will have something really nice to be able to play around with. I'll show you what I mean. So those are the chords. This is a caged system idea because these are all C shapes, but as you will see, they start to not look like C shapes. That's the funny thing about the cage system. When you start modifying the caged shapes themselves and changing them to minors and sevenths and all those expensive sounding chords, they start to stop looking like the chords that we know so well from the cage. Briefly, what is cage? Cage is C, A, G, E, and D shapes. That's all it is, guys. It isn't a complicated thing. All we're doing really in this lesson is we're honing in on this C shape here, our cowboy chord C. We know and love this one so much because this is one of the first ones that we all tend to learn. What we're going to do is we're going to modify this shape. But first, let me just outline the anatomy of this chord and tell you that this is a major chord, and that major chord consists of a root, a third, and a fifth. The root is the note that gives the chord its name. The third defines its tonality. And the fifth is transparent. It doesn't add any colour to the chord, but it stabilises the sound of the chord. The third, like I say, that's the colour. That's the emotion. There are two emotions that we have when we're thinking about chords, and we're thinking about majors and minors specifically. A major chord has a major third. That's why it's called a major chord. And a minor chord, Kel Surprise, has a minor third. Let me show you something. This is why we don't play this shape. To get the minor third, we would have to lower this finger down one fret. Now that would involve some strange strangulation of the guitar neck. We could put fingers in positions like this, but it isn't ideal. Now I'm not going to say that this idea here isn't going to become useful. So there's the major third and there's the minor third. The next thing I want you to understand is if this is an octave, yeah, an octave is 8. And if you think about your numbers, 1 less than 8 is 7. And this is going to be here. Just like the third, it has a major and it has a minor. So look, major, third, minor third. And we can do the same thing here. So this is 8, this is 7. This is going to be a major 7 now. Look at the shape of that. And then we've got the flat 7 there, which is the minor 7. Flat 7, minor 7, same thing. Major third, flat third, minor third, same thing. Those are the two that we're manipulating. This is going to be our root note, and this is not going to shift off the A string, because the thing to notice about the C shape is the root of the chord is on the A string. If you've ever come across this idea of this bumchuck bass line where you've got alternating bass where you might strum from the root and then hit the fifth up here, that's telling you where the fifth of the chord is there. Now, curiously, if you want to, you can even see that this forms this. What shape does that look like? Comment below what shape you think that looks like. And I can play this as a funky sounding major 7 chord. What you also need to know, there are formulas for each chord. The major 7 happens twice in the key. It happens on chord 1 and chord 4. In this instance, it's going to happen on C major, and then it's going to happen on F major. So there. And you can see the shape that I played hasn't changed. This is an F here. This is a C here. So we get some cool sounds there with that major 7. It's a lovely one because I really like how the 7th is on the top of that voice. If you listen to the root and the 7th together, they clash, but add that 3rd. Can you hear how it smooths the harmony out? It's very nice. So that's something to remember. Chords 1 and 4 are always major 7. Let's address chord 5. This is G7, and this is the C shape that you have most likely come across. This, you might have approached it in a blues and come across it in this B7 down here. That's the closest thing to the cowboy chord version. So if we have this up here, this is the shape for our 7th. And if you think about it, that's the major 7th. If we flatten it 1 fret, then that's how we get that flat 7 there. Or you could think of it as the minor 7. The cool thing about chords 2, 3, and 6 is they are all minor 7. They're all the same shape. So if I move up here, there's my root note. Okay, let's build the chord. Root, flat 3rd, then we get the flat 7 here. Look at that. It looks a bit like a power chord there with my 3rd finger up there. So I know that if the D is going to be chord 2 and E is going to be chord 3. So if I just move this up a whole step, then I get chords 2 and 3. Let's just add that up here on chord 6, which is here. So you can hear, gives us a really nice sound there. These are luscious sounding chords. Now, like I say, we can add body to that, but I'm not going to do it yet because I still need to show you one more chord. This minor 7 business here. That hangs around until we get to chord 7. Now, in C major, chord 7 is B minor 7 flat 5, also known as half diminished. B minor 7 flat 5. If we get rid of the flat 5 for now, then we have a B minor 7, and that would look like this here. It's exactly the same shape as those minor 7s we've already played here, because there is no 5th. The structure of these chords, it's got the root here, we've got the 3rd here, and we've got a 7. All the way up, root, 3rd, 7, 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 root, 3rd, 7. And when I say 3rd and 7, I mean the appropriate 7th for each of those chords, whether it's a major 7 or a flat 7 or a major 3rd or a flat 3rd. It doesn't matter. And I'll show you why this is different when we add this 5th in the bass. So we can see we add that there. Now, it gets a little bit tricky, a bit stretchier here because we've got to add this here. That's for chord 2, which is the D minor 7. Now this is an E minor 7. Have you ever played an E minor 7 looking like that? Then we get the F major 7 just here. Next comes chord 5. There's the G7. And then we get to the A minor 7. It starts getting a little bit tight up here. And then this is the critical bit, because if I take this shape, this minor 7 shape up now, I've got to modify this 5 and turn it into a flat 5 for that to become the minor 7 flat 5. We've got to put the flat 5 in there instead. So you can see that this is a really interesting way of playing these chords. Now you can mix them up in your 6-2-5-1s and all your chord progressions and everything, but be aware that you're going to lose some economy of movement. So a 6-2-5-1 would look like this. You're going to get that sweeping motion. If you want that effect, then you could try that out if you like that sort of sound. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned how we can add these shapes now to our pentatonic. And what that'll do is it'll give you some extra sounds you can just superimpose over the top, and that will create some lovely textures and add something as well to your soloing and improv vocabulary. Because we're in the key of C major, we're going to be using C major pentatonic. Now, you could also think of that as being A minor pentatonic, and the boxes are going to be exactly the same patterns. So let me just start in box 1, for example. Within that scale shape, you can see that I've got that chord there. That is an E minor chord. It's my E minor 7. Yes, so I've got that there. But then what I can do is I can move up to this F major 7. Now the thing is, there is no box pattern that corresponds with the chord F. So essentially what we've got is we've got the scale, and we've got the chord here and the chord here that we're going to use to orbit that scale. There's the E minor again. So we've got that box pattern there. Now that's an easy one to deal with, but let me just drop down. It sounds odd, but if we think about it, box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4, box 5, transpose that down an octave, and we're going to go like this. We're going to go 3 5, 3 5, 2 5, 2 5, 3 5, 3 5. That's the pattern that we have there. So you can hear when I put that chord on there, it sounds pretty lush. But remember, we've got chord 2 that lives in there as well. So what I can do is I can think to myself, I can see my pentatonic box pattern here. There. And I can go to that chord there. So just adding on the top of there those 7th shell chords, we can get some interesting sounds by adding them to the pentatonics that we know and love. Now there's a cool thing that happens is because we're bringing in these half steps. We get this half step here, half step here. Because the pentatonic is essentially made up of major seconds and minor thirds. Let's move up to another box pattern here. We already had this F up here, but I'm going to include this pattern here. If I take this C major, pentatonic here, which is 8-10, 7-10, 7-10, 7-9, 8-10, 8-10. So if I take that pattern there, got that there, and then I go to the you can hear I get some interesting sounds with this. Going back down here to the ideas that we had before. It enables us to see these chord tones that we can add in there to the scales. Now the next box pattern that we get is box 3, and this is a strange one because it goes 10-12, 10-12, 10-12, 9-12, 10-13, and then 10-12. Now if we want to think about it, our A minor lives just here. That's the A minor 7, and that's that G7 there. So if I was looking at that there, I can do what I call peekaboo, where I just pop into a chord and then come back out of it. Now, I'm up here, getting into the dusty end of the neck. Remember, this is the minor 7 shape, but if we wanted to play it correctly, with that flat 5 in, it's going to be there. But for today's lesson, we're not going to bother doing that. We're just going to include this bit and look at how that incorporates into our pentatonic. We would have 12-15, 12-15, 12-14, 12-14, position shift into 13-15, position shift back down to 12-15. You can see I I can create lines just moving through the chords, using the pentatonics as a scaffolding to help me to move through those. This is just one part of understanding how these shell chords come about and seventh chords and all that business. And if you're interested in learning more about that, then you want to watch this video just here.